人类危机解决之道至联合国 The only solution to humanity's crisis, to the United Nations. Translated by Treasure and edited by Care. November 25th, 2018 Economic and Social Council. The United Nations. Dear Mr. Alberto Padova, our environment and climate continue to deteriorate, and neither can be solved by the Kyoto Protocol or the Paris Agreement. The only way for us to save ourselves is to completely change our traditional modes of production and life. If we continue to follow our current production and life modes, then these 8 crises will remain unresolved. Overpopulation, humanity's greed and lust, environmental degradation, climatic deterioration, loss and waste of resources, less stable ecological environments, refugee problems, they will continue to increase. Conflicts between nationalities, religions, cultures, and interest groups. These problems above can only be solved by changing our traditional production and life modes. Everyone yearns for a good life, but how can it be obtained? It will not be by preaching morality, enforcing laws and regulations, following religious precepts, redistributing money and material assistance, constant meetings and discussions of governments, or even the UN, warnings and threats, or even by force. It is only by changing our production and life modes that these crises can be solved. What kind of production and life mode should be changed? First of all, we should break up traditional marriages and families because they are the sources of human selfishness, the birthplaces of human crises, and the headstreams of all crime and evil. They are also the curb chains which prevent us all from leading happy, joyous, free, and blessed lives, but rather make people feel anxious, miserable, and fearful. Our mode of production should change from a pattern of possessing to one of sharing, from one of competing predatorily to one of serving each other enthusiastically. The rest of the contents involved are too broad to discuss here, but I can offer much more information based on my experience, if the UN is interested. How do we change nearly everyone's traditional production and life modes? To implement the production and life mode of the new Oasis for Life created by the Life of Chanyuan. We have been experimenting with and improving upon this mode in mainland China for 9 years, and the results have been very encouraging. More than 200 people have participated in our experiment over the past 10 years, and 150 of them have resided within the new Oasis for Life for extended periods of time. The remarkable signs of this mode are that exclusive marriages and families have disappeared, supporting our elderly and rearing and educating our children have been managed well, the crime rate has dropped to 0, our members' health has improved greatly, pollution to our local environment has dropped to near 0, and our waste of resources and carbon footprint have been reduced greatly. Our people's happiness indices have risen higher than those in any of the developed countries in the world. There are many more advantages over the traditional production and life modes which are difficult to describe here in detail, but of which we have published many written descriptions, photographic proofs, and video displays, and we want the UN to understand them in detail. We can provide a great deal of information as evidence to study and judge. If people do not change their traditional production and life modes completely and adopt these of the new Oasis for Life, as created by Life of Chanyuan, then the prospect of sustained development will remain distant and uncertain. At this juncture between our continuation as a species and our extinction, we are hopeful that the UN will send people to study and demonstrate it as soon as possible and make it a project to be put into practice as has been done by Life of Chanyuan, to bring about the new models of production and life modes sooner rather than later. Let people from all over the world visit, study, and experience it. In this way, humanity's situation can change completely and our futures will be blessed and sustainable. It is impossible to change humanity's dangerous predicament at once, and even if the brakes were applied immediately, the inertia of traditional thinking would last for decades, by which time it would be too late. So, the best way to do this would be to build new models of production and life modes which are intuitive, that people can see and experience in person, and that can be copied and replicated everywhere. If the new Oasis for Life mode were to be repeated by millions of people, then the beautiful ideal that mankind has dreamed of for thousands of years would surely be realized. How do we build a model of this new production and life mode? We would establish a new oasis for life in mainland China, in the United States of America, or in Zimbabwe, Africa, with 300 resident members, including people from various religious, cultural, national, and ethnic backgrounds under the auspices of the United Nations and implemented by Life Genuine. We encourage the United Nations to persuade one or more of those three governments to agree to allow us to create a new oasis for life on their territory, and also to allow the foreign people involved in its creation to enter and leave freely. The place where the new oasis for life would be created would be chosen and financed by Life Genuine and purchased or leased according to existing local policies. Of course, it would help if the UN could help with the funding, because if you were to do so, then it would be quicker and easier to build, and the new model could unfold more quickly. It would be effortless for the UN to help us to create this model of the new production and life modes, but the benefits would be endless and would benefit many future generations. So why not put it into practice? It is better to teach people to catch fish than to give them some fish. If the UN turns a blind eye to my proposal and ignores it, then you will have to deal with many types of devastation everywhere for many years to come. We look forward to positive, encouraging news from your organization. CFA. Life Genuine,